In part 1, we saw what should not exist. In part 2, we met the humans history avoids. But now we reach the breaking point, the moment everything changed, because Göbekli Tepe did not fade away. It was removed, and knowledge is only removed when it becomes dangerous. Stay with us. Because this part is not about building, it is about erasing, and once this begins, humanity is never the same. Göbekli Tepe was not abandoned, it was not destroyed, it did not collapse, it was buried carefully, slowly, deliberately, stone by stone. Layer by layer, this matters, because collapse leaves chaos, burial leaves intention. They filled the site with soil, animal bones, broken tools. As if sealing something alive, this was not forgetting, this was hiding. People do not bury what is useless, they bury what is powerful. They bury what must not be accessed. Something about this place was no longer safe, not for enemies, but for future humans. This knowledge did not vanish by accident, it was sealed like a wound to prevent reopening. And the most disturbing part is that the builders did it themselves. The same hands that raised the stones chose to cover them, which means they understood the consequences. Of letting this knowledge survive. Stay with us, because the next chapter explains what they were afraid of. Göbekli Tepe represents unity without control, belief without hierarchy, meaning without ownership. That is dangerous, because systems depend on fear, and fear cannot rule free minds. At some point, human societies change direction, survival replaced, meaning control, replaced trust. Farming begins, land becomes property, time becomes measured, life becomes scheduled. Spiritual experience becomes ritual, ritual becomes religion, religion becomes authority. Authority cannot allow direct access to meaning because meaning makes people whole, and whole humans do not submit. Easily Göbekli Tepe bypassed. Control it offered, experience not instruction, presence not obedience. This kind of knowledge cannot be managed, cannot be taxed, cannot be weaponized. So it had to disappear, not because it was false, but because it was true. Stay with us, because the final chapter reveals what replaced it. Göbekli Tepe humans gain civilization but lose something else. We gain cities, but lose silence. We gain structure, but lose connection. We gain survival security, but lose spiritual depth. This was a trade and no one remembers agreeing to it. The ancient way required awareness, presence, responsibility. The new way required obedience, routine, distraction. Civilization made life easier, but meaning harder to reach. Spirituality became external, something to be taught instead of experienced, and once meaning moved outside as control moved in. Göbekli Tepe reminds us that another path existed, and that reminder was too dangerous to leave exposed, because it asks a forbidden question. What if progress was not improvement? Stay with us because the next part brings this question into our world. Göbekli Tepe was buried but not forgotten. Its silence still speaks. If this part disturbed you, that is not fear, that is recognition. Something ancient is reacting inside you. Subscribe because part 4 connects this lost knowledge to modern life. And once that connection is made, there is no going back. And this is where it becomes personal, because this story does not end in the past. It moves forward into us, into our lives, into the world we live in today. Göbekli Tepe was not just buried in soil, it was buried under systems, and those systems are still here, working quietly every day. Stay with us because now we turn the mirror around. Göbekli Tepe disappeared. Something new rises. Permanent settlements, fixed locations, borders, ownership. Land is no longer shared. It is claimed. Food is no longer gathered. It is stored. Stored food creates power. Power creates hierarchy. Hierarchy creates obedience. Time becomes divided work. Rest, worship, life becomes scheduled. Spiritual moments are assigned instead of felt. Meaning becomes external, something to be delivered by authority instead of discovered inside. This is efficient, but efficiency has a cost. Awareness fades, presence weakens. Fear becomes useful. Fear keeps people compliant. Control replaces trust, rules replace understanding, and slowly humans forget that another way ever existed. Göbekli Tepe becomes myth, then legend, then silence. Not because it was unimportant, but because it was inconvenient. Stay with us because the next chapter shows how this still shapes us today. Look around. We have more than ever, more food, more technology, more information. Yet something feels missing. We are constantly distracted. Constantly busy, rarely present. Silence feels uncomfortable. Stillness feels unnatural. We measure our worth by productivity, by output, by approval, not by awareness, not by depth. We are connected digitally, but disconnected internally. Ancient humans gathered to experience meaning. Modern humans gather to escape emptiness. This is not failure. It is consequence, a consequence of choosing control over connection structure, over spirit. Göbekli Tepe reminds us that humans were once capable of living without constant supervision, without constant noise, without constant fear. That memory is dangerous because it suggests we could choose differently. Stay with us because the final chapter asks whether it is too late. Göbekli Tepe does not ask us to abandon civilization. It asks us to remember what we've buried inside ourselves: awareness, presence, shared meaning. These things do not require temples or leaders or permission. They require attention, silence, intent. The ancient world was not perfect, but it was awake. Modern life is comfortable, but often asleep. The danger is not technology. The danger is forgetting that we are more than systems, than schedules, than survival machines. Göbekli Tepe whispers that another state of being is possible, not by going backward, but by looking inward, and that is why this site still matters, because it is not history, it is a reminder. Stay with us, because the end of this video is not a conclusion, it is a choice. Göbekli Tepe was buried so that civilization could rise, but something rose with it: control, distraction, forgetting. If this video made you uncomfortable, that is not coincidence. That is recognition something ancient is still alive inside you. Subscribe not for content but for remembrance. Because once you see this, you cannot unsee it, and the question is no longer what was buried, but what we choose to keep buried.